Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Nick Brown.
United finally get their first win in League One for 9 years as the Shrews are beaten at Brunton Park. We look back on the hard-earned 2-0 victory before looking ahead to this weekend's trip south to take on surprise early pace setters Stevenage. Yes, you must bring a bit of luck, Nick, because very rare that I get it done in one go, the intro. Quite often I'm stumbling over my feet and I write something far too long and complicated and I just have Dan and Mike going, oh, for God's sake, get on with it, will you? But there you go. Yeah, as you might have guessed, neither Dan or Mike are available this week, so we've dragged in a super sub. He's probably going to, like Greg does, show us up as being a lot better than we are. Nick Brown. Nick, how are you doing, mate?
I'm great, mate. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Well, it's good to have a listener on who is a big fan as well now, because you're one of the people who always message me and say, like, is it going to be out for Friday morning, walking the dog on Friday morning? You're desperate for it every time, aren't you? But
it's an essential part of my weekly.
Good stuff. Well, we'll get straight into it. Obviously, we're going to be reviewing the win over Shrewsbury and then looking at the Stevenage game. But first up, obviously, as usual, we have to tell you about our sponsors, which is the Car United Supporters School London branch, who we're really grateful for their support for the third season in a row. They do fantastic stuff in terms of fundraising for the club, and also in terms of arranging stuff for away games and tickets and travel and stuff like that, and advice on pubs and things like that. You can join them wherever you live. You don't have to just live in London, the South East. I mean, you can live in Prague. You can live in I'm trying to think of random places. Istanbul. Any random places you want to throw out there, Nick, that you could live in?
Torshaven in the Faroe Islands.
Yes, Torshaven in the Faroe Islands. Great shout there. If you live there, you can definitely sign up as well. So there you go. If you want to find out more about them, go to their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. Right. Obviously, Mike and Dan are here, but Mike has sent us question of the week for us. So we'll have that now, and then we'll give the answer at the start of the second half. So here is the question of the week from Mike.
The last time that we played Stevenage and I had JJ Coyote up front, we battered them 4-0. Who scored for us in that game?
What's the question, that?
Yeah.
I think Coyote scored one of them.
Yeah, I think so. I always feel like you guys are very good at this, and even when Mike says he's got to struggle, he often does better than I do. So,
From memory, did Joe Riley score an absolute belter against them? Was that someone else during that season?
He did score some belters, mine, didn't he? So
I have a think, because this is one of the games we could actually go to, wasn't it? I think during the COVID season, I think it was one of the ones where we had our little sections of the paddock.
Well, with the limited attendance.
Yes, I think it was. I think Coyote. I'm going to go Coyote, Alessandra, Riley, and Aaron Hayden tended to score. No, was it maybe Reece Bennett?
He did score. It probably depends what part of the season it was.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Coyote, Bennett, Alessandra and Riley, but we'll come back with the answer at the start of the second half of the show. Right, let's get into it then, mate. News section. Well, we're going to talk about two transfers that happened. We'll do it the wrong way around from what I've got on the running order here, but we'll start off with the one that departed, the midfielder departing, and this one was one that I think people were kind of expecting to happen in some way, shape or form. Kai Nugent. Simo hinted was going to be heading north for the border, and no surprise, it was Annan Athletic. He's turned up on a full season loan, joining Max Kilsby there. Good move for him, this, isn't it? I think he's not likely to get any game time this season, but he's shown a lot of promise in pre-season, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's a really good move for him, to be honest with you. Season loan as well, so he can find his feet there, and I think it's just a good thing for us. And then moving up to that level, I think it's a good level for us to loan these lads out to. It'll only do him good, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they've shown so far they're fairly competitive, Annan, because I think I had a little bit of a fear when Max went by there that he was going to be. They might be getting battered every week and struggling because they are quite a small club at League One level, but they've held their own fairly well so far. They're similar to us. They're not really being battered by anyone, but they're just finding their feet. So hopefully things will work out for him. Let's talk about the one that's come in then. So Simo's finally got his man. We had to wait until pretty much the end of the transfer window. I think there was an hour and a half to go. There was murmurs about this one for a couple of days beforehand, and we finally got the target man we wanted. It's a familiar face, Joshua Coyote. 23-year-old Irish forward. He's Lagos born, we should say, from Nigeria originally, but I think he moved at a very young age to Ireland. He's got a very thick Irish accent when you hear him talk, so he very much is an Irish forward. Rotherham United, obviously, we got him on loan from. He's previously obviously had loan spells with us twice, and also spells at Gateshead and MK Dons. He did sign a new contract before departing the Millers, a 1-year extension on his deal. It could have been a permanent deal by something. There was a lot of to and fro in during the day. What's your initial thoughts on this? For me, I think this is a great signing. I think this is as good a signing as we could have got in terms of bringing a target man into the club.
Yeah, I think it is exactly what we need. I think that kind of focal point that we've seen before. We know he can do a good job at that. It's obviously a step up for him to play with us at League One level. But I think he's really going to work well up there. It was amazing that final day. It's always the biggest case of like Carlisle Chinese whispers you'll ever get. Like so many names getting messaged through and people losing their heads over that we weren't going to sign anyone, and then we pulled that one out of the bag at the last minute, and I think everyone's pretty happy.
I had heard quite early on in the day that Coyote was pretty much coming in. Later on towards I think tea time-ish, the talk was it was going to be a season-long loan, which there was a slight deflation when that happened, but then you're like, okay, you know what? Fine, it's fair enough. And the first thought was, well, he's out of contract at the end of the season, so that might work quite well for us. But then, obviously, the news comes out that he signed an extended deal with Rotherham. I get why he's done that, and I get why Rotherham have done that. I think that actually works out well for everyone, because for him, he gets the extra year security of the fact that, he's contracted for another year at Rotherham if things don't work out with us. For them, they're protecting their asset that they can potentially sell at the end of the season. For us, look, we get to get a good player on loan for the season that knows the club, that can fit in well pretty easily, and maybe we'll have to pay a fee next summer, but if he's done a good enough job for us to pay a fee for him, you'll be pretty happy to do that, wouldn't you, I think? So hopefully by then the investment side too. And there's the bonus as well of the fact, we all know what he's about. He's a big, strong lad. I've spoke to a couple of people who've seen him down the club in the last week or so, and they say he looks even bigger than he did when we first had him. And, he was quite a tall lad, a little, maybe not quite as well bulked out there, but he was, you could see he had a bit of strength about him. But now apparently he looks like he's really worked on his strength side of things. And, we all know about that throwing as well, don't we? And I know some people bemoan it a bit, but for me, I think it's just another good weapon to have.
It has a place, Lee.
100%.
A big long throw. Yeah.
Just get Big John in there causing a bit of chaos on the long throws. You never know what's going to come from it, do you? That's what you want. So I think we're generally in agreement. It's a good signing. I think we benefited from the fact that because Barnsley were linked with quite strong with him, weren't they? But they've signed another ex-Blue, which we'll come on to later. So that probably benefited us slightly in that way. That player is the gift that keeps on giving, the one we'll mention later on. Because he just seems to, despite the fact that he played only a handful of games for us, he constantly comes up trumps for us in a weird way. So there you go.
On Coyote, I think it's really important that he clearly likes the club. He's happy here. I think that makes a big difference. I think he goes into it full of confidence that he can do a good job for us, and I think he will. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with that. I really think that the fact that he knows the club really gives us a bit of an advantage there. And look, we don't talk about the game that happened on Tuesday night, but from what I've heard from people who did watch it, he looked quite impressive. So there you go. I know Dad will be listening now going, what game? He'll be
won't be happy with that.
What game? What are you talking about? He always does that, but there you go. We just don't talk about it. Okay, there you go. Right, well, let's get on to it. Shrewsbury Town 2. Sorry, I got it wrong there. Carl United 2, Shrewsbury Town 0. Finally get 3 points in League One, mate. I mean, how relieved were you when that Joe Garner goal went in at the end? Because you were still quite near us, and we were at that end of the pitch for this game. For some reason, I was down that end, and I just felt there was a real sense of relief when the ball hit the back of the net.
Yeah, there was a bit of an explosion, in terms of like the atmosphere, and everyone was just pure relief. And I think, to be fair though, leading up to that goal, I wasn't too worried. Like, I didn't think Shrewsbury, I mean, we'll look at it obviously, but Shrewsbury really weren't exactly like knocking at the door much. And I still felt like we would have seen it out anyways. But yeah, once Garner's shot hit the back of the net, it was a very good feeling, I must say.
Yeah, it was a real feeling of relief, wasn't it? It's one of those games, I'm just looking at the bare stats here. pretty balanced game, actually, wasn't it? And I think I've watched back the extended highlights, and I always watch it back a bit of the match replay on the iFollow as well. And I've got to say, I thought first half they probably did. At first I thought, oh, maybe we shaded first half. But actually looking back, they probably did with the chances. Shade the first half. Second half, we very much were on top. And once we'd scored, we looked comfortably the better side. And it kind of felt, once we got a grip on Daniel Udo up front for them, it was a big handful, wasn't he, in the first half?
Yeah,
he caused, have the same effect.
Yeah, he caused quite a lot of trouble, especially the first 15 minutes. I felt like he kept dropping deep and getting the ball, and just everything was going through him. And he was a handful, to be fair.
He rolled Big John a couple of times as well, didn't he, I think? And that was a bit like, oh, God, John's getting rolled here. We're in a bit of trouble. But actually, he got into the game a bit more after that, so that really helped things. So when the lineups were announced for this game, no massive surprise that there was only one change with Jordan Gibson coming in?
Yeah, I thought the same team put out was the right teams. Yeah, Gibson had to come back in, really, for me.
Yeah. It just made sense then. I mean, the big changes were on the bench, actually. So obviously, McCalmont dropped onto the bench in place of Gibson. But in the matchday squad, there was 3 players who dropped out, which were Edmondson, Butterworth and Charters. And they were replaced by Garner, Robinson and Harris, which interesting change, especially in terms of Garner coming back in, because there was a lot of talk leading up to deadline that he could be on his way, which Simo did dismiss, to be fair, a couple of days before the deadline. But slightly surprising that he made those tweaks in terms of the bench, I think it's fair to say. First half chances. We'll talk through some of them now. So obviously you mentioned that Udo, he had a few chances, didn't he? You know, he was setting up a couple of plays. I think Benning had a chance from the edge of the box that went well wide. He had a shot himself from 30 yards, which I think Anderson had pretty comfortably covered. And then Gibson had the best chance for us first half. And I still haven't quite worked out how this one didn't go in. It was weird. It was good, patient build-up play. The ball comes to him on the left. He cuts inside and has a shot through. I should say the shot did come through a crowd of bodies and the keeper did not see it till very late. He dives down and he sort of it almost just comes off him and just scoops over the bar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it probably goes down as a good save, but he has no idea what's happened there. And it's how it's not ended up going in. It's just pure luck, I would say, really. Yeah,
not even clipping the bar. That was the weird thing. It looked like it was going to clip the bar or come out or something, but he just scooped over the bar somehow. It was just bizarre. Yeah, in terms of that, I think they had one more chance, which was a chance for Bayliss, which was well wide. But bar that, not really too many chances for either side first half. And into the second half, United started to get a bit of a grip on it. Maguire had a decent chance after some good play from Moxon, but he hit his shot over the bar. Then Back sent in a looping cross that the keeper almost palms into his own net, but he puts behind for a corner. But from that corner, United take the lead. And we were sort of saying, weren't we, that set pieces this season, corners, haven't been quite as effective. Not sure why. Is that maybe the absence of Feeney, who we'll talk about in a minute? But we just haven't been quite as effective on set pieces. And then the delivery's been fine, but then Moxon puts in probably his worst corner of the season, and we score from it, don't we?
Yeah, I didn't see who it actually came off. I mean, I think I heard an interview with Maguire today saying that he's still trying to claim it. Are they going to try and have a word with the EFL or something? I don't know if you've seen his interview, but
I've not seen it, but I think he's grasping it incredibly thin straws out.
I think he's claiming it's come off his back first, then hit the defender, then it's went in.
I think the problem with that is I think it was still going wide, even though he's flicked it. Yeah. I think he might have got a touch, but I don't think it deviated towards goal, whereas it's a clear deflection off Bayliss to go into the back of the net. I was a little bit disappointed it didn't come off Feeney, because that would have been very, very funny and very apt. But as it was, it came off Bayliss. Keeper had no chance into the back of the net, and it's 1-0, and it just felt like that lifted a bit of pressure off us, didn't it? And suddenly the crowd seemed to believe a bit. They really got behind the team. Obviously, Feeney was getting a fair bit of stick, I think it's fair to say, during this point. Good shout for a penalty on Mellish at this point, where the ball comes looping to him in the box. He goes for a volley, and for me, the lad just walks across him as he's hitting it. But there wasn't a huge amount of claim from our players, was there?
And Mellish didn't claim either. I don't think. So that normally tells you. I mean, the ref, Mellish done his job for him. Really. He didn't play it. Yeah, it would have been soft, I think.
Yeah, it probably would have been, to be fair. Almost a lovely goal from Luke Plange, though, wasn't it? Great little bit of play down the right. Guy whips in across from quite deep, and Plange just gets ahead of his marker, flicks out a leg, and just comes off the post and just an inch the other way, and he made it back of the net, and you'd think, what a great goal, what a way to open your account. He had another fairly decent game, I thought, actually, Plange. He caused problems again.
Yeah, it's full of running, and I thought he'd done really well to actually get on the end of that ball. Guy's ball in first time was actually fantastic. Actually, it was really, really good ball. But I think it was maybe slightly. He had to adjust himself plans to get on the end of it, and he made a really good connection with it. Just pure unlucky that he didn't put it in the net.
The Shrews did have a couple of late chances. There was one where Udo had a low shot that Anderson pushed behind for a corner, and then another one where I think it might have even been Bayless or someone got on the end of a lofted cross in the box, and I don't know how he's headed it wide. He should really have buried that chance. It was a really, really good chance for them. And then United into injury time just started to really sort of get a grip and take control, and there was never any moment of panic. And then Mellish hits a long ball forward that Ablade, which I've had this confirmed, by the way, that is how you pronounce it. It's Ablade, so we know that now. Ablade showed brilliant pace to get away from Feeney down the left, cuts back onto his right foot, plays the ball across. Now, I thought at first McCallum just messed this up and missed it, but actually watching it back on the replay, on the footage, it's a deliberate dummy. It's a really, really clever bit of play. Garner comes onto it on his left foot and he just waits for the keeper to dive and puts it in the opposite direction, and it's 2-0, and just a nice little moment there to see Joe get his a goal on his 550th league appearance, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly what we deserved that goal as well. At the end of the game, I feel like I think we're the better team. And Big John's cultured through ball, shall we call it, was a cracker.
He's done a couple of those, hasn't he? Because he did that for Toby, didn't he, against Rochdale a couple of seasons ago in that game.
Yeah, he did,
Simo's first game back. He has got a bit of control sometimes when he plays those balls forward. It isn't just
He put it in the right area.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's not a case of just hoof it out of play. It's like, right, I'm going to put this into an area and give him a chance to have a go for it. So,
poor Feeney, man.
Yeah, he was...
When he was up against little Terry there, he had no chance. The pace difference was ridiculous.
And Feeney's not like a slouch. Like, he's not like...
No, it's not.
Doesn't run like his Tony Curran, so fair play. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the chances. Onto your talking points, really. Much improved performance, I think that's fair to say. Particularly from the Port Vale game. There's still things to work on. Still a feeling that we're not taking chances and still maybe snatching at things a little bit. But great to finally get that 3 points on board. That's the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a hoodoo off our backs, that. And when you're struggling to get a win, you do snatch at chances and you do rush them. So now we've got that hoodoo off our backs. Maybe we'll just take a bit more clinical with those sort of like chances that you need to take at this level, I think. So I think hopefully we're just a bit more clinical in front of goal now.
Yeah. So Simo, basically we stick back to 3-5-2 at the moment. We're sticking with that. Are we comfortable that's our best formation? I think it is. I don't think we've really got enough to play 4-3-3 at the moment, personally.
No, I think we've got to stick with that. I think we look solid, especially at home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't see him changing it now.
So strike partnership. We started with Plange and Maguire. Signs of a decent partnership there. For me, I like both players. I think they're too similar. I think they're both would be better as support strikers for me. I don't see them working together as a partnership. I think they're okay in little spells in games, but I don't think you see enough over the full 60, 70 minutes, whatever it is that they play to justify them as a partnership.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you wouldn't mind it later in a game for 10, 20 minutes or so. I think that maybe would work, but starting, I just don't think that's going to be the front two that we'll be going with.
No, I don't agree with you there. The two that replaced them, Garner and Ablade, looked quite lively, didn't they? I think I love Joe winning that free kick and then basically trodding on their player as he came down off the thing and walking away as if he'd done nothing wrong, which is just very typical Joe Garner. But talk about young Terry. He's got pace to burn, hasn't he? He looks a lively player.
He's speedy, isn't he? He's quick, and I was impressed with his feet as well. I think I've said this many a times and been proven wrong, but I think there's a player in there. I really do.
Yeah,
and especially in that situation that we were in against Shrewsbury, see if you've got your noses in front and you need to make a change. That front two coming on, Ablade and Garner, is a defence's worst nightmare. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like Garner's just going to bully the attacker, and Ablade is just going to be their defender. And then Ablade is just going to be terrorising them with his pace. So it's not a bad move at all. I think having those two available. It's in terms of other performances for the Blues. Sam Lavelle won the man of the match, I think. Callum Guy got the man of the match officially at the game. A lot of people said Sam Lavelle. He actually won the WhoScored.com man of the match, which is we look at the stats for them quite often for this. What's your thoughts on Sam's performance? Because he's taken a bit of a while to settle in. I think there is a feeling of Barkley and Feeney did so well last season, he's always going to be judged against them. Would you agree this is probably his best performance since arriving at the club?
Yeah, definitely. He was very steady. He was steady all game. I think with a defender like Lavelle, if he never looks like he's struggling, then he's had a good game. And he never looked like he was struggling all game there. I thought, didn't really put a foot wrong, really.
No, I'd agree. I think he looked very solid. And look, I've never been that convinced of him since coming. But the first game I thought, actually, all right, you know what? You can fit in quite well here. And, and there's a few people talking about, do we rest Hunt or, is he going to replace Hunt in the long term? I thought Hunt had another great game as well, to be fair, actually. He didn't really put much wrong up against Ryan Bowman. He kept him pretty quiet, didn't he? Actually, it's amazing. I've written the note here. I haven't even mentioned Bowman because he looked okay for 5 minutes.
He didn't really do. Yeah, exactly. For 5 minutes, he didn't really do anything. No. I was surprised he stayed on as long as he did. Really.
Yeah, it's a very strange one. I was a bit puzzled as well why they kept him so long. Right, we've gone this far and we haven't talked about him yet. So let's talk about Morgan Feeney. Took a fair bit of stick. I thought he looked pretty solid actually for them until Terry Bardet came on and caused him a few problems with pace. Do you think it was a little bit harsh, the stick he got?
No, I don't think it was harsh. I don't think it was over the top stick either. He's a professional footballer. It was fair enough. A good percentage of the crowd were booing him, but it was just boos.
It's pantomime, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. It's not there was nothing nasty towards him.
Other than the, Feeney, what's the score? And there was a
which was always going to happen.
Yeah, and then you have got the kids in the Warwick who were suggesting that he enjoyed. I know kids listen to this, so I can't possibly say what it is, but they basically suggested he gets up to extracurricular activities on his own. But a little bit of stick he got there. What about the incident at the end with Simo?
Well, because of the stick, that it clearly got to him.
Yeah,
clearly, and he started very well, and I was like, he's not going to lose his head. He kept his head, but then you could see little cracks coming throughout the game, and then into the last 5 or 6 minutes, you could tell there was something there. I think it got to him, and then I don't know. I mean, it's a bit daft from him what he done with Simo.
Yeah,
I mean,
so he got a booking for dissent, we should say, as well, earlier in the game. He said something back to the referee, which is becoming more common this season, as we've seen. But at the end, for those who haven't seen, if you haven't, if you've been living in a cave for the last week, basically, Feeney goes up to Simo. Simo goes up to Feeney to go and shake his hand, and he basically refused to shake his hand and said, "You're the reason I got this stick today. It's your fault. You lying to the media." And Simo's like, "I haven't lied to anyone. I've told the truth about the things." And he said, "Look, at the end of the day, he's saying that I didn't get the chance to match what Shrewsbury offered you. That's the problem. That's the reason why." And he wasn't happy. That's the thing he wasn't happy about. I think it's something that'll blow over eventually, I'm sure. But
well, hopefully it doesn't blow over, because you kind of want that there in the game away when we play him. Just that little bit of needle. I think it helps.
Oh yeah. Eventually, not this season, but maybe eventually in the future, we'll welcome him back and he'll be fine.
To be honest, I don't have any major problems with us. I mean, he captained us to promotion, a bit of pantomime, which he maybe couldn't handle at the end of the day, but that's all it was. I'm sure he's forgotten about it already.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has indeed. Right, it's time for the 6-second reviews.
Lee,
go on.
We need to touch on how his agent suddenly came out of.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I completely.
We can't not mention that.
This is funny. That you say his agent. It's definitely not his agent. Surely there was one user on Twitter.
There's someone, isn't
there? Was one user on Twitter who, funnily enough, was very vocal in their defence of Feeney and also criticism of Simo after the game. Just a random Twitter user that with a load of something. It was a user and a load of numbers, wasn't it? Who basically got a lot of shit back from Carlisle fans and very quickly locked their accounts. Mike of our parish, obviously, who lives in the same area as Feeney's agent, is convinced that it is Feeney's agent, Michael Ball, the former Everton and Man City player. So was it Man City? I can't remember now. Everton, Rangers, PSV, someone like that, isn't he? But basically, he's convinced it's him. But we can't.
It's very strange.
couldn't possibly prove it, but he's got history for bad behaviour on Twitter anyway, hasn't he? So it could well be. But there you go. But yes, right. Let's move on to 6-second reviews. We've got 2 this week. I've got 3 down on the thing, but actually Johnny hasn't got one for us this week. So it's Craig and Regan. So who do you want to start with?
We'll go for Craig.
That's young Craig. Right, here's Craig's 6-second review.
Feeney who, finally, the Blues got their first League One win. It was a really good game of football, unlike other weeks when we just started hoofing it desperately and we actually got the ball down and played football. My man of the match was Mr. Pasta Hands, Callum Guy. I thought he played really well and he made some good passes and runs, which is something we were probably missing earlier on the season. But it seems like we're finally adjusting to League One and it's showing. I thought Maguire had a really good game after getting really close to scoring. And I mentioned to Luke Plange because I wasn't a very big fan of him and I wasn't so happy about him starting, but I thought he played really well this game. Can someone tell me why we thought Feeney would be unreplaceable? Especially when Lavelle is so much better and he doesn't start fights with his past coaches. I mean, maybe, it would show Simo some respect because he obviously forgot who got him promoted so we could get the move to the big club known as Shrewsbury Town. Next home game is a really big one. Hope we can cause an upset and get some points up the Blues.
Good lad. Hey, always bang on the money, isn't he? I mean, to be fair, he mentioned something there that we did forget to mention, which is obviously Callum Guy's eating habits.
Mr. Pasta Hands.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone who's not seen it, obviously after the game, the club always put a picture up of the player who's got man of the match, picking up their champagne, but also them eating the food that they get given by a local. I can't remember who does it for them now. It's not a pub, is it? Someone that does it?
I think it is. I think it's a St Nick. I think
St Nick, right? Okay. Anyway,
yeah.
But basically, he's got a tray of pasta, and you should have a fork or something to get it. But he's basically dipping his hand into the pasta to grab the pasta. He's obviously doing it as a joke, but now basically he's getting ripped on the internet for it as a result. But yeah, so pasta hands, Callum. We had a great game, to be fair. I agree with that entirely. But yeah, no, some really good points there from Craig as usual. He's such a hard man to please, isn't he? I think it's fair to say. But he's
he seemed pretty pleased about Saturday's results. So, yeah,
you did. That's good to hear. Good to hear. Right, up next, Regan has sent in his review as well.
Yeah, great to get 3 points. I think we've just been crying out to get that little bit of luck in the final third. I think it's the only thing that's really been lacking from our game, and obviously we got that with the goal from the corner. And you could see the weight lift off the players' shoulders. We kind of dominated the game up until that point, and then after that, they didn't really get a look in. I think Anderson's made one save at his near post, and that's about it, really. So just all round, a top performance. Really positive change from Simo to bring a Blade on and Garner on as well. Kind of prevented them from just pushing. Would have been really easy to make a defensive-minded change there, but doing that, it's obviously got us our goal and wrapped up the 3 points quite nicely. Brunton Park, I have to say, was brilliant. I was really worried that we might drop below that 7,000 attendance, but it's great to see that we've still got that. And great atmosphere, backing the lads and making it not a nice place to come for the away team. So long may that continue. And as always, shag is shag, and it's as simple as that. Up the Blues.
He's brought out of retirement. He said he was going to retire for this season, but he's clearly been waiting for a win. Great stuff. Thank you very much for that, Regan. Yeah, I think he's spot on. Good point about the crowd as well. Another 7k crowd, and with Derby at home in the next home game, you gotta hope we could get at least 10k for that. You'd think with probably 2,000 away fans and a probably increased number of home fans as well.
Yeah, I think we should be 10k plus for that, surely.
I mean, you'd hope. I'd be disappointed if we didn't. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, I think basically everything he said there was right in terms of the crowd really giving us the lift as well and a bit of luck as well. I think he's spot on with that. Actually, the goal was a bit lucky, the opening goal, and sometimes you just need that a goal to go off someone's back, or something like that. That's exactly what you want.
Simo said it. Simo said we've had no luck, and he's right. We've had no luck, and then you just need that one little chance, one little time, and it got us going. Yeah.
And great point about the positive subs as well, actually, because the easy thing there is take a forward off and maybe put a midfielder and pack the midfield something. But actually, by putting two forwards who could press a bit or push their players back a bit, that really took a little bit of pressure off as well. So great stuff from Simo. Before we wrap up the first half, Nick, we go through the League One results from last weekend. Starting off, Blackpool 2, Wigan 1. So Wigan have had a couple of tough results since they drew against us, haven't they? It's been a little bit tougher for them, I think it's fair to say. but a good result for Blackpool. Jordan Rhodes, I think, scored the opening goal for them in this game, which I think he's going to be a great signing for them, isn't he?
I thought that was quite an impressive signing that they pulled him out of the bag there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he'll score goals.
Yeah. Bolton back to winning ways. They won 2-1 against Derby, but not a great result for Derby, that though, is it? Again, they're everyone who's, I think they're 12th mid-table at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think they had the man sent off, didn't they? I think
they did. Yeah, I think they did. You think you're right there. So it's a bit tough for them, but they could well be under pressure by the time to come to us. If they don't get a result in the next 2 games. Well, in fact, they're not playing this weekend.
No, they won't be playing international. Yeah.
There's only 2 games this weekend, amazingly. Ours and I think Leyton Orient v Exeter in League 1, which is quite remarkable, really. Bristol Rovers 1, Lincoln City 1, fairly straightforward. That Exeter, God, their start of the season's been brilliant, hasn't it? I didn't expect them to be up there at all, but they beat Burton 1-0. Obviously, we beat the Shrews 2-0. Charlton 2, Fleetwood 1. A result that cost Scott Brown his job at Fleetwood, didn't it? He's been given the axe. I thought they might find it tough this season, but I'm genuinely surprised considering they've kept hold of most of their players that they actually are struggling so much. It's quite a surprise because they've signed that Kabonga Shaminga as well, haven't they, from Peterborough on loan? He's a pretty good player, so yeah, interesting.
I thought they looked decent as well the first game of the season.
Yeah, they weren't terrible.
I was more expecting them to kick on as opposed to just being rubbish.
Yeah, seen who's been linked with the job today?
No, I haven't actually.
Our favourite pub impersonator down the A595. Pete Wild. He's been.
I don't think it'd. I think it'd be a strange move for him. That, to be honest.
The one thing is they've got such good resources in terms of facilities and stuff like that. And obviously at Barrow he's having to train at Manchester, but Barrow have probably got a squad that can challenge for promotion in League 2 this season. Yeah. So it's a risk to go. Yeah, I can see what you mean, but
from the outside, it's a club that's possibly struggling.
Yeah, especially with the ownership issues. So
yeah.
Cheltenham lost 2-0 at home to Barnsley. They still haven't scored this season, Cheltenham. Not great for them. I think we expected them to struggle, so not really a massive surprise to find them down there. Yeah. Our opponents this weekend, Stevenage, they beat Leyton Orient 3-0. We'll talk about this game in a minute in the preview section. Northampton lost 1-0 at home to Wickham. An ex-Blue scored in that game. We'll talk about that later on. Oxford United's decent run come to an end. They lost 2-1 to Port Vale. Port Vale, though, they're really having a good... It's interesting that, look at the teams that have beat us at the start of the season.
It makes our start look really hard.
Yeah, well, Exeter are top, Port Vale are 4th, and Oxford are 7th of the 3 teams that have beat us so far. So, in the end, you're looking and think, well, actually, are we doing that bad? And Wigan are arguably on, if I work this out right, I'm trying to count this in my head now, they're on, 12 points, so technically they're right up there as well, and we drew with them, so... it's not necessarily such a bad start in the end, really, when you look at that. Final 2 results. Portsmouth beat Peterborough 3-1 at home. And then on Monday night, Cambridge United beat Reading 1-0. Reading are having a really tough start to the season as well, aren't they? They're not really... Yeah. They've had 2 wins, but they've also lost the other 4 games, so...
You need to file them in the same category as Fleetwood. From the outside, they look a club in a lot of trouble, I think.
Yeah, could be a really, really tough campaign for them. Really could. Right, we're going to take a short break and then we'll be back with the second half of the show.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
Into the second half of the show. We'll do the answer to the question now. So a little reminder of Mike's question of the week.
The last time that we played Stevenage and I had JJ Coyote up front, we battered them 4-0. Who scored for us in that game?
Okay, so I went for... I'm pretty sure Coyote scored one of them. I think Coyote, Alessandra, Riley, and do I go with Bennett or Hayden? I'm going to go with Rhys Bennett.
Yeah, I thought you were going to do that. This is all on you. You've had no input from me here.
No, wait, maybe John. Maybe Big John would have scored because he scored a lot of goals that season, didn't he? Ooh.
Be worth a shout just on how many you got.
All right, I'm going to change Bennett to Big John. So Coyote, Alessandra, Riley, and Mellish, and these are all completely off the top of my head. So here's the answer.
And it was Nick Anderson, JJ Coyote, Lewis Alessandra, and Joe Riley.
I could have been guessing for hours, and I would never have got Nick Anderson on that.
We would never have guessed that. No.
In fact, if I remember rightly, that might have been one of those ones where he scored like a free kick from range that just wasn't actually that good, but just went into the back of the net because the keeper messed up. I might be wrong on that one, but anyway, There you go. So 3 out of 4, and I'll take that. I'm quite happy with that in terms of a return. So thanks, Mike, for your question of the week. Right, into the second half. We haven't got behind enemy lines this week. I haven't had a chance to speak to someone, unfortunately, from the Stevenage pod. I think I've got a Lincoln one lined up for next week, so we should have that one, which is a good one to get because we haven't played Lincoln for a few years. It'd be good to hear how they're getting on. Right, previewing the Stevenage game then, Nick. They're a real surprise package this season. I think we kind of expected they would be okay mid-table-ish, but for them to be sitting, third after 6, or was it 6 games we played now? I'm trying to get the table back up now. 6 games. They're third place with a record of 4 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. And they're only in third place on goal difference, basically. I think Exeter have got 1 better goal difference than both them and Bolton. And Port Vale are also on 13 points with a goal difference of -3, thanks to their 7-0 defeat on the opening day against Barnsley. It's just... Did you see this coming, them doing as well as they have?
I don't... Yeah, no. I think they're such a hard team to play against. And the sort of team I just think have probably caught a lot of teams at this level by surprise.
With their style of play? Yeah,
I think their style of play, physicality, they're not easy to play against, are they? They're just not. And
no, definitely.
I think they've clearly done very well. They've had a great start, really. Yeah,
I mean, you looking at their summer transfers, they've strengthened quite well. They've signed 3 different players called Thompson, which is highly amusing for me.
Commentators, nightmare.
I'm looking forward to hearing James have a crack at this one at the weekend. See if you can say Thompson to Thompson to Thompson at some point. That would be wonderful if that could happen. But yeah, I mean, they picked up Dan Butler from Peterborough, who's a pretty decent defender as well. Who else did they bring in? They've got Kane Hemmings came in on deadline day. It was an interesting one. He didn't really work out for him at Tranmere, but he scored a lot of goals at League One level for Burton. So you'd imagine he might be quite a decent addition. But he's gone for Alex McDonald at his former club, Gillingham. I've always liked him. He's a good little midfield player. Interesting slight Carl United connection in one of the summer signings. Aaron Presley, son of Stephen, signed from Brentford for an undisclosed fee, which is surprising because he had a loan spell at Accrington and did quite well last season. So you would have thought maybe they would have looked to loan him out again, but Brentford. But I think they get to a point where they send them on yet, really.
Yeah, is his dad wasn't Presley his dad Presley? Wasn't he involved with Brentford?
I think he's head of it's either loan deals or recruitment or something like that. He's got some sort of recruitment or loan or development role there. Basically, he's not involved in the first team, but he's definitely involved there. Yeah, you're right. He went there.
I think it's quite wise that he's not involved in first team management anymore.
Yeah, probably not. I do like Stephen, but it wasn't working out really, was it? But
no.
Looking at some of the other loan signings they made, Harrison Neal from Sheffield United, who was on loan at Barrow last season, he looked quite a decent player.
Yeah.
Barrow were desperate to get him back, weren't they?
Yeah, I think he looked a good player, he did, for Barrow.
And Charlie McNeil from Manchester United, who scored his first goal for them at the weekend. You look at some of the players they brought in, and they don't get the biggest crowds in the world. It's one of these ones you wonder if that's one of the ones that Simo was hinting at, that he can't quite grasp how they've managed to make as many the signings they have done.
They've clearly spent a bit of money.
Yeah,
but where that money's come from.
Yeah, Nick Freeman as well from Wickham is pretty good at that level as well. And yeah, I do look and think to myself, fair play, looking through their squad generally, and I mean, a lot of new players in there. But some of the ones who are already there, Jordan Roberts did pretty well for them last season. Elliot List, having him back was a big plus for them because he was injured for most last season, wasn't he? Obviously when they got promoted, and I think they really thought quite highly of him. In defence, Carl Pierre Gianni and Dan Sweeney. It's not a bad centre-back pairing, that, is it?
No. I was half expecting them to lose them, but obviously they've kept hold of them. So
I did wonder if they would lose them, but in the sense of losing them because basically they thought maybe they're not going to be quite good enough for League One level, but sticking with them by the looks of things. So, fair play. Yeah, last time out, you messaged me about this game actually the weekend, didn't you? Leyton Orient 0, Stevenage 3. Quite an interesting one because it looks like Orient had quite a few chances in it, didn't take them, and Stevenage not quite sucker punch, but it looks like the decent chances they had, they took, didn't they?
Yeah, they took. What is it? Did I say it to you? They had 4 shots on target and scored 3 goals.
Yeah. which tells you what you need to know, doesn't it? I mean, I should say from those shots on target, the first one was sort of like it was a low free kick driven into the box, and McNeil just flicks it on, basically, puts a bit more power onto it, and it goes past the keeper. The second one was quite a clever corner routine. Sort of corner comes out to the edge of the box, it's headed back in, and Sweeney manages to stay onside and then nods it past the keeper. The third goal is an absolutely stunning goal. If you haven't seen this, it sort of comes to the edge about 25 yards out, dead central to Freeman. It sits up nicely for him, and he just smashes a volley over the keeper, heading off the bar. And also, if they're your three chances, you've basically taken 2 set pieces and a stunning volley. It's a bit of a sucker punch, isn't it? I think, what was the comments you said Richie Wellens said after the game?
I always make a point of listening to the next opponent you're playing, the team that they've just played, manager, and he said something along the lines of he really didn't know through the week whether to stick with the same team, because I think they had a good result against Cambridge the week before, and he said that he didn't know whether to stick with the same team or change it up, and he basically said he didn't know if he wanted to play bigger players or not, and regretted it. Yeah.
Which is why I think in a minute when we talk about the team we're going to play, I think we both know which player we're going to put in up front for this game. Yeah. I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so quite a decent result from the last time. I mean, looking at their recent results, they drew 1-1 at Exeter, and Exeter obviously are right up the top with them, so that's a fair result. 0-0 draw with Portsmouth, and then they have lost to Reading, it should be said. We've mentioned before, struggling a bit, but they did then beat Cambridge and obviously beat Shrewsbury a wee bit at the weekend, so I kind of look and think to myself, some of the teams they've actually got results at are up near the top. But I think they've also had not the toughest start in the world. They've not played your likes of your Boltons or your Derbys so far, or even like your Oxfords.
Exeter.
And Blackpools, yeah. So the Exeter are the only one that are right up there that they've played. But I think we all agree Exeter are a little bit of a surprise package so far. So yeah, there's an argument maybe they haven't had some of what you would expect to be the tougher games. Although then you'd argue, you'd expect Charlton to be a tougher game, and yet look at them, they're in 16th. They've sacked their manager as well, so it's not all straightforward in that sense. Steve Evans, undeniably a good manager, isn't he? Just not a particularly likeable person.
Well, I don't like him. Stevenage fans definitely like him, though.
Oh, you would, wouldn't you? If he was your would I like him if he was Carlo Manager? It's one of those moral quandaries in life, isn't it? You wonder, could I actually take him? Could I quite like him?
I wouldn't be happy. Just watching what he serves up, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't want it.
I'd find it hard work, but fair play. I can totally understand why the Stevenage fans love him and defend him. I'm loath to be one of these people who say like they're a small club or anything like that, because it's pointless pettiness. That
it doesn't really matter, does it?
It doesn't matter, does it? But as a club the size they are in terms of what the fan base they get, you need that kind of manager sometimes. You need someone who's going to basically make you a horrible team that no one really likes, but you just grind out results and you constantly get results. And actually, quite often, it's not just grinding out results. You'll go and batter a team by taking the handful of chances you actually get in a game, and the opposition come away thinking, how on earth they've done that? Well, it's because they're clinical, because he signs players who are capable of being that in games. So fair play to the bloke. Like you said, I wouldn't want him as Carlo Manager. I'd much rather have Simmer any day of the week. But yeah, I mean, he's done a remarkable job as well when you consider they've made 60 signings this summer, and he's managed to bed them in this quickly and get results. It does show you what he's capable of doing, really, doesn't it? The question is, can they keep it up and go for promotion again?
I can't see him dropping away massively, because I think they do have a good squad of players there. So even like come January, February, and when injuries are starting to hit, I don't know. I think they might stay up there.
I think you might be right. I don't think they're going to challenge for top 2. I think they'll be sort of around about 6th, 7th, 8th place. I think that's where they'll probably end up being. Because I think even if in January they're struggling a little bit in terms of injury and stuff, I think the chairman will back him there and get a couple of players in just to try and keep, if they've got a chance of getting that promotion, he'll back them to get them potentially up there. So yeah, I agree with you. I can definitely see that, definitely. Right, in terms of some of the stats before we get going on the play for both. So obviously this weekend the referee is Darren Drysdale from Lincolnshire. It's his 20th season as an EFL referee. He's very much a veteran with the whistle. This season he's taken charge of 3 games so far, handing out 13 yellow cards but no red cards yet. Tempting fate there. Last season he handed out 99 yellow cards and 2 red cards in 33 games. And the last United game he took charge of was actually the final day of last season at Sutton United for the 1-1 draw. Only one player was booked that day, and that was United's Jack Robinson. Head to head, this is going to be this is an interesting one, right? We've played against Stevenage more times than we have Wigan Athletic in our history. Like 10 more times as well. It's not even close. We've only played Wigan 17 times. I was sure we'd played them loads of times, but we were always quite way ahead of them until the 90s, weren't we? Very strange on that one.
And then they just left us behind. And
now we've caught back up again.
Thank God.
27th meeting between the two sides is going to be, so far, United have won 12, 5 have been draws, and Stevenage have won 9. Play for both. So Dan is a bit incapacitated this week, unfortunately, so he hasn't been able to record one for us, so I'm going to do this. I'm doing this very much on the hoof, off the top of my head. There's not that many to pick from, actually, to be fair. It's an interesting one, this one. So I'm going to go with a player who joined us on loan in the late 90s. Had a brief loan spell in 1998 from a Scottish club. Played 6 games, scored 1 goal in that spell. Who do you reckon I'm talking about here, Nick, if you were going to guess?
Oh, I don't know, mate. I'm struggling here.
Not sure. Right, well, he started out his career at Chelsea. He is none other than Albert Jr. Hilliard Andrew Mendes. Better known as Junior Mendes. English-born, former Montserrat international. He played 7 times for Montserrat in his career. He started out at Chelsea. He then went up to St Mirren in 1996. He actually spent 4 years at St Mirren, 120 appearances, 21 goals. And then he joined United in the 98-99 season. Towards the start, I think it was. He had a loan spell with us. Played 6 games, scored 1 goal. But I think he quite impressed because he was quite a big, strong lad with a bit of pace. And I think we were thinking if we can get him longer, he could be really, really big player for us. Unfortunately, he went back to St Mirren, finished the season with them, and then he sort of did a little tour of some of those clubs around that part of Scotland. I say the tour. He went to Dunfermline and then went back to St Mirren for a brief period. He had a spell at Mansfield Town, Huddersfield, some loan spells at Northampton and Grimsby and Notts County as well. He was there, Lincoln. Sort of did a sort of tour of a few sort of lower league clubs. Then he went to Aldershot Town and had a loan spell with Stevenage Borough in 2009. Similar to us, 6 appearances and 1 goal. And that's it. And then he went from there to Ilkeston, Ayr United, and then played for Nairn County, which I'm presuming is that Scotland, Nairn County? Just double checking it. Yeah, they're in the Highlands. Yeah. They're a Highland team, and then finished his career with the reformed junior side Clydebank. He is now fitness coach at Hearts, apparently. He studied at the University of West Scotland, completing a Masters of sport in sport and exercise science in 2018. So that's what he's up to these days. So there you go, Junior Mendes. I'm 99% certain that's the one that Dan would have picked. Now, knowing the way his mind works, it was either him, Adrian Clark, or Tommy Black. They were the only 3 he was likely to pick, I think, in the selections we had on offer there. Not a huge amount. There's only about 12, I think. I'm not going to read them all out now because I can't be bothered, to be brutally honest. So there you go. Right. Let's get into talking about United ahead of the game then, Nick. Injury-wise, Nick, Ben Barkley's out for 6 to 8 weeks. We found out now, unfortunately. So that's really big. But at the start of the season, he just seems to have rotten luck, doesn't he, with injuries? So kind of hoping it's similar to last season and it all gets sorted after Christmas.
We've managed without him thus far as well, I suppose. So yeah,
I think I've been calling out for him to start, but look, we've got Jack Ellis who can play the right side of that defence as well, can't he? So we have and Corey Whelan, of course, as well. To be fair, I should mention him. Turned down a move on a deadline day as well to Colchester, so he's here for till January at the very least. So formation-wise, we've agreed that we think 3-5-2 is what suits us best right now. Defence, anything you'd change there? I think we kind of accept that's going to stay the same, don't we?
No. Yeah, I think it's got to stay the same.
Yeah, Anderson was better, I should say, against Shrewsbury than he was against Port Vale.
He had a couple of moments.
Yeah, there was a couple of crosses that went over him and you were a bit like, ooh, kind of things that Hurley would pluck out the air. And you take for granted how big Hurley is, don't you, sometimes, and the effect he has in terms of that. So Fair enough. So, yeah, I think we're in agreement that your defence, goalkeeper and back five stays the same. Midfield, I mean, Guy and Moxon start. That's just kind of accepted at the moment, isn't it? You know, they're probably our two best midfielders. Do you stick with Gibson or do you bring McCallum in for this one?
I would stick with Gibson.
I'm not sure. Club, isn't it?
I'm not sure Simo will. I don't know. I think Gibson's work rate is absolutely fantastic as well, and I think we'll need that against Stevenage.
Yeah, a little bit creativity, and it should be said it's his former club, Stevenage. Well, he had a loan spell there, didn't he? I think from Bradford, so he'd be wanting to impress in that game, I imagine. So I'd agree. I think I'd stick with Gibson with this one, but I wouldn't be surprised for an away game if you brought McCallum in.
Yeah,
maybe if you can just pack it with a bit more solid midfielders, possibly. Well, here's the big one: attack. Does Coyote come straight in for his league start?
Yeah, considering the opposition, I think he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I think otherwise you'd maybe look to bed him in a bit slower, but actually we're coming up against Stevenage. They're a big team. We know they've got two really big, strong centre-backs in there. We want someone in there who's going to cause them problems. And again, I didn't listen to the game on Tuesday night. From what I heard, he won more headers in the first 5 minutes than most of our attackers have done all season. So, you know, it goes to show, you know, that he's going to have a real positive impact there. Who do you play alongside him, though?
Yeah, it's tricky. This I probably would. I would play Maguire. I think he's looked very useful.
Yeah, I think definitely Maguire starts.
And I think he's improving every game as well. Maguire, I think he's got to start Maguire.
Yeah, for me, Maguire, and then you can bring on Planjor, Ablade to cause problems later on as an impact sub, can't you? Subs, I'm guessing it's going to be either Ellis or Whelan coming in to replace Barkley as a sub defender. Is the main change. It's whether he brings Edmondson back in possibly as well. You've got so many choices in attack now, really. Edmondson and Butterworth might find themselves out of action for a while here if they're not careful.
I think they're out in the cold a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, I think they're going to find it tough.
I like Edmo, but I don't think you could complain about it either. Really.
It's not worth it. No. This was his big opportunity and it just hasn't worked for him at the start of the season. It's just really frustrating, but especially for me and the rest of us who've all picked him to be top scorer this season. Yeah. We're looking a little bit stupid now, but there you go. Right, match predictions time. So even though you're just on it as a guest host, Nick, we're going to get you to predict your scoreline for the game and your goal scorers. So what are you going to go with?
Oh, it's tough on this. I'll be positive after that win. 2-1 Carlisle win. I'll go. Will we score from a set piece? And I'm not sure about that. I'll say I'll go Huntington from a set piece, and then Ablade on the break late on to win it.
Ooh, we're going to go for another late goal then. Yeah, I imagine. Yeah. Hopefully, they'll have been wasting a lot of time, and we'll benefit from that and get a goal nice late on.
That'll be 27 minutes added on.
It was ridiculous at the start of the season, but I think it's tempered out a little bit in terms of
they went the complete polar opposite to the added time, haven't they?
Yeah, it's just crazy, isn't it? Well, I should say I am now leading quite comfortably in the table on 5 points because I got a correct score for the game against Shrewsbury. I didn't get goals. None of us got the goal scorers, but I did get a correct score, so I'm quite happy with 5 points to Dan's 2 and Mike's 0. Is he still on? Right, what am I going to go for? I'm going to go for a 2-1 win as well. 2-1 win with goals from Coyote and who's going to get the other? Jordan Gibson. He's going to get a goal against his former clubs. There you go. Coyote and Gibson. Dan wasn't able to send one in, but he has sent me a message with his, and he's gone for 1-1 with Gibson to score the goal. And here is Mike's prediction for this game.
Stevenage have started the season really well, but I'm going to be quite bold. I randomly fancy Stevenage to have a man sent off, and we're going to win 1-0 with Terry Ablade scoring in the 100th minute.
Ooh, it's very similar to you. He's going for a very late goal from Tesla. There you go. There you go, indeed. Right, on to the X-Files section to wrap things up. Quite a busy one this week, actually. There's a lot to cover in terms of goals and transfers. A very busy transfer deadline day for Former Blues. Starting with the goals from last weekend, Jordan Pickford got an own goal, unfortunately. He was very unlucky with this, though, wasn't he, Nick? I think it's fair to say. Rasping shot hit the post and came back and hit his head and went into the back of the net. Did you see the save he made at the end of this game? The double save.
He made up for that, didn't he? Unbelievable save.
Unbelievable save. Jared Branthwaite started for the second game in a row. He's pulled out the under-21 squad, unfortunately, for England with an injury, but good to see him starting games.
He seems to pull out of the under-21 squads quite often.
He's done a couple,
Is that
hasn't
just
he,
me?
really?
Yeah.
Interesting, that one, isn't it? Yeah. We mentioned it earlier, Northampton against Wickham. There was a goal scorer from a former Blue, that 1-0 win, and it was Richard Keogh with his first goal on his return for the Chairboys. It's his second spell with them. It's nice to see him scoring, isn't it? You know, he's still scoring at 37, 38 now he is, I think. He's old, isn't he? And Hunts, isn't he? I think. Fair play to the lad. Aaron Hayden got the only goal of the game in Wrexham's 1-0 win at their rivals Tranmere Rovers. It's a weird one, this. People don't seem to realise, but it's a really big rivalry between Tranmere and Wrexham, isn't it? I think there was about 10,000 here for this game. Tranmere have had a very tough start to the season in League Two, though, aren't they?
It doesn't sound good for Tranmere. From everything I've been reading.
From speaking to the fans I know at work, they're not particularly happy at the moment. I think Dawes could be in trouble there. I think he could well end up losing his job.
I seen a few on Twitter wanting Bentley to come in, which I don't know. It's a bit desperate.
That one, yeah. He's just taken over at Southport as well, isn't he? So that'd be a bit of a change, wouldn't it? I was going to make a joke there that no one outside of anyone who lives in the Liverpool City region would get that if he goes from Southport to Tranmere, he just needs to get himself an all-areas save-away, which is a little bus and train ticket joke for you there that I get because I work for the Transport Authority, but there you go. I've told the rubbish joke now, so I can't even hide from it. Adam Campbell, he got his first goal for Crawley Town in their 3-3 draw at Stockport County. Stockport, again, not having the best start of the season, are they?
No.
Dave Challoner's been linked with other jobs as well, hasn't he, I think? Is he linked with the Charlton job, possibly, I think?
I think he went and spoke to Charlton and then turned it down.
Interesting, that one, yeah, but they're not having the best start of the season. They're struggling after the playoff final defeat to us last May.
All four teams that played in the League Two playoffs are all struggling a bit.
I mean, there's no surprise with Bradford, is it, really?
Yeah.
You can see that one coming. Brendan Dickinson, I'm really pleased to see how well he's starting at Oldham, actually, because he's had a rotten time with us in terms of injuries. He's got, I think, his third goal since signing for them, I think. He scored in their 2-2 draw at Gateshead at the weekend. Nick Bellardo, he's had a really good start at FC United as well. He scored the only goal in their 1-0 win over Barnoldswick Town in the FA Cup qualifying. And Keelan Leslie scored a goal for Workington in their 6-0 win in FA Cup qualifying against Prestwich Hayes. They've been rewarded with a away tie at Darlington in the next round, which is one of the tough ones I think they could have got, actually.
Yeah.
In the National League North teams coming in. Although Darlington are struggling in the National League North, I should say they are bottom of the league, but still, the National League North team probably would have preferred someone a bit further down. Into midweek, Sean Brisley, he was sent off for Alfreton in their 0-0 draw at Banbury United in National League North. It's just ridiculous that Banbury in National League North. I just never get over that. Michael Liddell, he's become a goal machine at the start of the season. He scored for Blythe Spartans in their 4-0 home win over Farsley Celtic. And Owen Windsor, again, he's on a real rich reign of form. He scored for Chippenham Town in their 3-3 draw with Taunton Town. On to the other section, Nick. We're going to cover transfers mostly now. In fact, we'll do a couple of coaching bits first. Nicky Adams, he's returned to Oldham Athletic for his first coaching role. He's head of their youth, I think it's their youth development team, basically. He's the head coach of them now. And here's a real blast from the past. Darren Holloway, he's been sacked as assistant manager of Darlington, just mentioned before. So there you go, that's the coaches covered. On to transfers. J.K. Gordon, there was a lot of talk over the summer, could be getting back in on loan. I think there was always a feeling he wanted to move down south this time rather than one up north. No surprise then, he's joined Cambridge United on loan from Crystal Palace until January. I think I can see the sense in this move, can you?
Yeah, it's an easy one for him to make, that one. And they're doing well as well, Cambridge, aren't they? So
yeah, go to a team doing well. And
he'd probably quite fancy that.
One thing they've probably lacked over the summer in terms of signings has been strikers, so actually getting him in there is probably a good move for them. Dean Bouzanis, he has re-signed for Sutton United on loan from Reading until January. James Chester has signed for Barrow on a short-term deal until January, having featured for them in their Lancashire Cup fixtures recently. Some Carlisle fans were saying, why didn't we get him back? Well, because we don't need a defender. No. It's probably the reason. And also, let's be brutally honest, his knees are probably shot now because he's barely played in recent seasons. So, yeah, I can get why Barrow took a punt on it. It makes sense for a deal until January, but for us, No, it's just let's just remember that brilliant loan spell he had and leave it at that, should we? I think that's probably the best way to look at it. Mentioned him early on without actually mentioning his name. Sam Cosgrove, he signed for Barnsley on a free transfer for Birmingham City on a 2-year deal with a 1-year option for the club. Interesting one, isn't it? He's done so well at Aberdeen, but since then, nothing really, is there really? Did okay at Plymouth last season?
I thought he had a spell with Plymouth where he done all right, didn't he? But
I mean, he just benefited us time after time, hasn't he? We managed to get a fee for him for selling him early after he signed a pre-contract with Aberdeen. We got a sell-on clause into that fit transfer, which of 20%, which benefited us massively when he moved from. Was it 10 or 20%? Either way, benefited us when he went to Birmingham City for £2 million. And then he's moved to Barnsley. It means we've been able to get Coyote without too much difficulty in the end, by the looks of things. So thank you very much, Sam, for that. Ryan Loft has joined Port Vale from Bristol Rovers for an undisclosed fee on a 2-year deal. I think Bristol Rovers did this one on the basis that they were going to sign that.
Clark Harris.
Clark Harris from Peterborough.
Peterborough.
And that deal fell through, didn't it? I don't think it happened in the end. Am I right on that?
There was a few deals similar that didn't end up happening last minute, wasn't there? I think Wrexham.
Poor old Wrexham.
Made a mess of Armstrong as well.
Imagine leaving a £500,000 record bid until the last minute on the transfer deadline. A fee that our manager advertised to everybody like literally a week before. Yeah. I thought there was. I mean, the funniest thing about it,
amateurish.
Someone made a really good point about this. That who's their chief executive? It's what you call him. He used to be in the Football League, didn't he? He was at Sean Harvey. That's him, isn't it?
Right,
Leeds United. Yeah. So he's involved at Wrexham. You'd think the guy who was running, the Football League and involved at other big clubs in the past would know the details about getting a transfer on time, wouldn't you? Just ridiculous. So Ryan Loft's joined Port Vale. Ethan Walker has joined Morecambe on a season-long loan from Blackburn Rovers. I mean, God, he's. I was quite impressed with him when he joined us on loan initially. Obviously, got that injury, which stunted his development in that sense. But it kind of feels like he's wasted his move going to Blackburn Rovers to be sitting in there under 23s, only to 2 years later join Morecambe on loan. It's just a bit of a waste, isn't it? Yeah. There's a few players like that, though.
At that age, I mean, I don't know. He should have played quite a few Football League games by now, at that age.
Yeah. You look at the difference with someone like Jack Armour, who comes to us.
Yeah.
He's played 150-odd games now. That's the difference, really, but there you go. Brad Young, he's joined Cymru Premier side, the New Saints, on a free transfer after his summer release by Aston Villa. There's a player who's really not fulfilled the alleged potential he had, isn't there, really? God, what a fall from grace. Richie Bennett, he has signed for Scunthorpe United on a 1-year deal, and that's it. That's the last transfer of the thing. I'll probably miss some. If I have, just let me know, and we'll drop them in there. And that's it for this week's episode. Nick, thank you so much for stepping into the breach with Mike and Dan not available. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy your dog walk, listening to yourself tomorrow morning. It'll be a very interesting way. But there you go. Just to remind everyone as well, thank you once again to our sponsors, London Bunch, for their support this season. And we'll be back next week with a review of the Stevenage game and a look ahead to the Lincoln City away game. And all I've got left to say is the usual, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.